I've read 866 books on scaling businesses. 10% were useless, 20% were redundant, 25% were flat out wrong, and 15 changed my life forever. Now, I started in 2009 with a PayPal account that did $700 in its first month. Since then, I've personally scaled multiple brands to 9 figures and helped 38,000 other founders strip away the complexity of growth to generate billions in combined revenue. And I attribute almost all of my success to reading and learning from others. The late Charlie Munger said, "In my whole life, I have known no wise people who didn't read all the time. None, zero." I'm going to save you a decade of your life and share with you the most valuable lessons from the 15 books that changed my life. And I've broken these books down into 6 categories: big picture, productivity, marketing, management, profits, and fulfillment. So first, let's start with the first big picture book, which is Snowball. So this is a biography about Warren Buffett. This book showed me how somebody becomes the richest person in the world. He became obsessed with something from an extremely young age, which was investing, and basically still does that today at 95 years old. And the reason the book is called Snowball is because it's using the metaphor of a snowball rolling down a hill, getting bigger and bigger and bigger until it's unstoppable, as a metaphor for compounding. And that's what you've seen in his life. He produced over 90% of his wealth after the age of 50 because of the nature of compounding. I've experienced this on a much smaller scale in my life, where at first it feels like everything is hard in business. But eventually, when you get enough money, enough resources, enough relationships, eventually things start feeling easier because you've been realizing the benefits of this nature of compounding. So I believe this biography drives that point home incredibly well. Second book is Losing My Virginity by Richard Branson. So what's funny about Richard Branson and Warren Buffett, and the reason I use those two as sort of my ideal examples of how to run businesses, is both of them have been able to become multi-billionaires without actually having to run their businesses day to day. So Warren Buffett has his holding company, Berkshire Hathaway, owns subsidiaries that basically completely operate autonomously. He reviews financial reports and basically asks the CEO, "Hey, if you're to die, who's going to replace you?" He asks them that every 2 years. And that's basically the entire extent of his involvement in those companies. Now, Richard Branson, he's built this incredibly valuable brand, Virgin, that he's used to launch other businesses, to license his brand name to other businesses, but still has the same freedom as Warren Buffett. He chooses to spend his time on his island, kite surfing and hanging out with people and doing environmental projects. Warren Buffett keeps building businesses, takes care of his shareholders, runs his massive public company, but without basically zero day-to-day involvement in the operating businesses. So they have their own lifestyles, but they've basically been able to accomplish the same exact thing. So I think if you were to read those 2 biographies, you would have a very clear idea of how to run businesses without having to actually operate any of them yourself. The next big picture book is called Outsiders. So this drives home the point of what to do with your money that your business generates. So there's a guy in here named Henry Singleton, who Warren Buffett and Charlie Munger praised a ton over their lives. And he grew his company by intelligently allocating capital. When his stock price was very low, he bought shares back. When his stock price was very high, he used shares to buy other companies. Most CEOs of even big public companies get this terribly wrong. Their stock is ripping, and what are they doing with cash? They're buying more shares back, which is stupid. And so I see this happening in very small businesses as well. People generate some cash in their business, and the only thing they can think of is take that cash and either buy something personally or dump it back into the business, even though their business may not have that great of opportunities to reinvest cash. I know I made this mistake in one of my businesses. It was generating so much cash flow that I didn't know what to do with it. So I just kept reinvesting it back in the business. Had I just bought some public stocks or even some other friends' businesses or something, it would have turned into way more money than just burning it inside my own company that couldn't use additional cash. So it's very important to know, if you want to build wealth, to understand where can you get the highest return on the cash that your business generates. And this book drives that point home. Next one is the Essays of Warren Buffett. So as you could tell, I'm a very big Buffett fan. I even have a little bronze bust in one of my houses. But this book I like because there's a lot of books on Warren Buffett, but a lot of them are people sort of taking his material, synthesizing it, and saying, here's what I think he said. This is just straight from him. So there's other books like this, but this one's nice and simple. It's not like this big textbook one that I have as well, but it's literally words directly from Warren Buffett. So if you want to learn how to build businesses, how to build an empire, how to allocate capital, and how to do so in a way that requires basically zero meetings, his calendar in most cases is basically empty during the week. I remember there's kind of a story about him that he was saying that he was showing his calendar to Bill Gates, And all it said on there was literally Tuesday, haircut day. And Bill Gates is like, how do you do this? And he's like, it's kind of by design. So if you want to learn how to make a ton of money, build great businesses, and do so in a way that you have almost complete free time, read this book. So the next one on productivity. So this book, The 80-20 Principle, has been talked a lot about, I believe, by Tim Ferriss and other people. And I read this, 15 years ago or something. It was great. And then I kind of put it aside because this principle is kind of in the title. But then I picked it back up a couple years ago and I was like, wow, I was going through this. And I was like, it's still just as relevant as it was back then. And it applies to basically every area of your life. But we forget this stuff. And so you can apply this rule to your products, your sales funnels, how you spend your time, your hobbies, the friends and family that you spend time with in your life. So this book is absolutely essential. Don't need to spend a bunch of time on it because it's in the title, but read the book and apply it from cover to cover, because you're going to get so much more out of seeing how he breaks down how to apply this principle than just saying, oh, 80-20, I kind of get it. So incredible book when it comes to productivity. Basically teaches everything you ever could possibly need to know about productivity in a couple hundred pages. Now we'll jump into marketing. So this is how you actually get money coming in the door. Foundational book, influence. And so he actually ended up writing this for other people like him. Didn't exactly write it for marketers, but then marketers love this book because this is how you basically influence people to buy stuff. And so this book is foundational for anybody who owns any business and wants to sell anything. This is another book that I read years ago, picked back up, and I think I bought it 3 or 4 times. So a lot of these books, when I looked back through my Amazon purchase history, I had bought these books 3 or 4 times. A lot of these ones that I'm showing you here today, especially this one. And so that tells me it's a book that's really made a huge impact on my life. So this book will tell you exactly how to structure your marketing messages and your offers to get the highest response rate possible. This is basically anybody who's ever taught marketing is some derivative of basically these principles. So this one is absolutely essential. A few of the most important principles: reciprocity. So by giving stuff to people, you're going to get stuff in return that's likely disproportionate to what you gave them. Another one, scarcity. When there's a reason for something, this is why every single promotion we ever run, we say, hey, it's, this holiday, it's National Coffee Day, it's National Donut Day. We use all of those reasons because people feel like, oh, this isn't going to last forever. So using scarcity, extremely important. So the next book is Positioning. I actually had it with me, but I was literally rereading this last night for probably the 5th time or something. And this is a fantastic book that I didn't read till much later. So it was written in like the early 2000s, and I had done a lot of marketing, produced a lot of revenue, but I didn't really discover this book until a few years ago. But it's incredibly important, especially for consumer brands, but really for anything you want to sell. So it talks about owning a specific position with your brand. And the example or the framework that I give a lot of times for people is that, for example, if you have a coffee brand like us and we want to be the #1 healthy coffee brand, we've launched some supplement products. The problem with that is you think that oh, because people are already familiar with my brand, they're going to buy this supplement and that'll make it easy to generate sales, which is true to some extent. The problem with it is that then customers are confused. They don't know, are you a coffee brand? Are you a health supplement brand? Or some weird combination of the two? That invites competitors to say, we only sell healthy coffee. That's all we do. Now they own a stronger position for that market. And so you have to be very careful about what products you own and what products you add under a brand. That's why these big companies like Procter & Gamble, they separate their brands. They have Clorox and they have Tide and they have different brands of diapers, even different levels of diapers that are all going after different chunks, different positions within that market. And that book explains that very clearly. Next one is this one, the 16-word sales letter. So this is an extremely good framework for writing sales pages. The 16 words are: this new opportunity is the key to their desire and it's only attainable through my new mechanism. So I've heard Russell Brunson talk a lot about the same exact concept. And so the idea here is that the first principle is you got to have something new. And so he basically gives this one idea and says, this is what you want to drive home through your entire sales material. But then he also breaks this down into 10 questions, which makes this a very easy, it's a pretty short book, less than 200 pages, less than 100 pages. And so I refer to this now, anytime I'm writing a sales letter now or sales page for any sort of product. But he basically breaks it down into 10 questions you can ask yourself that'll make this one belief come to life. And so the first one is, what makes this unique and different than anything else people have ever seen? This is so important. A lot of times when I see people selling products, they don't have anything new about it, and they wonder why they don't produce any sales. You have to have something new. You can't be the 1,000th person who's tried to sell something in that market. So that's what the new opportunity is. How is this unique and different compared to everything else I've ever seen? So that's the first thing you must have, and that's part of his 16 words. And then speaking to their desire, once again, people miss this. They'll talk about all the stuff about their product and they forget, why the heck does somebody actually want to buy this in the first place? So speaking to their desire, and only attainable through my new mechanism, which is something related to your product. So to give an example with like weight loss, at one point I sold weight loss supplements. That was some of the first stuff I sold on Amazon, natural weight loss supplements. And there was a product called Garcinia cambogia. It was way far down the line. People had sold thousands of different weight loss supplements, but this one took off for a period of time because it had something new, different way of melting fat. It was this exotic little thing from over in the rainforest somewhere. And that product sold very well because it was something new. But you can't just repeat that same thing. If you want to enter a weight loss market or any market, you've got to have some new framework. And this book really breaks it down. You can literally follow it from start to finish and write a sales letter or a sales page that's probably going to convert better for your product than anything else. So that book gives you the overall framework for writing copy. This next one, Alex Hormozi's $100 Million Offers, really goes deep into specifically just the offers part. So I use this today. I've sold a lot of stuff online in a lot of different markets and businesses, but I still like to use this as a reference for creating offers. It's a good reminder. He's got some different tips on naming stuff. It's good stuff in here. And so if you were to combine this book, which he's pretty light on the offer section, it's one of the last things in here. If you were to combine this book, but then beef up the offer with this, you're probably going to sell more than almost anything else. If you literally just did these two books, you're probably going to dramatically increase the size of your business. And so great book, reference on creating offers. Next one is The Art of Pricing. And so this is a book when I really wanted to go deep into pricing. I was doing some podcast episodes. I read like 9 books on pricing. This guy has a PhD from somewhere, has done a lot of studies related to pricing. So the big lesson here is that you can dramatically increase the value of a customer and how much you sell just by manipulating the pricing. So a big tip from here, the big takeaway is that good pricing is often not simple pricing, unfortunately, because I always prefer to simplify things. But when they talk about like a restaurant is going to maximize their money, not just saying, here's the price, take it or leave it. No, they're going to maximize their money by having happy hours for people who want to spend less money. They have special deals for people who come early, brunch options for things on the weekend. So they're basically taking and mixing and mashing all the same dishes, but they're offering them at different prices for people who are willing to pay different stuff. Same thing applies to coupons. The reason you have coupons and people don't get upset about it is because people that are willing to jump through hoops and use coupons is one type of buyer. People who just want it immediately and are willing to pay full price is a different kind of buyer. And so that's what this book really makes clear, is that a simple one product, one pricing structure is probably not going to maximize your amount of money. So he walks through exactly how to do that. Standard example like we've used is that we offer 3 and 6 bags, and then we offer different coupons throughout the year. And so that structure has maximized our pricing, and this book really breaks it down how to do that. So the last 3 books to me are really about sharpening the sword. If you went through the 16-word sales letter, $100 Million Offers, The Art of Pricing, and Influence, you basically know all you need to know about marketing in general. But these other books are going to make you way sharper and help you keep building the skill so you can sell as much as you want of any product in any business you ever enter. So this is a Jay Abraham book called Getting Everything You Can Out of All You've Got. Big lesson for here is to be creative. Like this is a thing where it's kind of like once you really master what's in here, there's no excuse you can't make money in any business, your business or entering somebody else's. This basically would allow you to never be broke for the rest of your life. And so he gets very creative in a whole wide variety of businesses. A lot of people like myself and Alex Hormozi and a lot of these people have had a lot of experience in a very narrow sort of range of businesses, whereas this guy has had experience in all kinds of different random businesses because there weren't as much competition back when Jay Abraham was doing his thing. So basically any business who wanted to sell more, he was able to work with them. And this book breaks down a lot of different offer structures, creativity, ways you can get customers in the door. So absolutely great. Then the next one is Ogilvy on Advertising. So this is by David Ogilvy. This to me is most useful for breaking down some of the copy elements that he used, but the most important lesson I took away from this is that I tell people now, the more facts you tell, the more you sell. He was able to sell things like Rolls-Royce just by doing research on the product and including every possible fact in that copy. So not sort of exaggerating stuff, just gathering the facts and really explaining them very clearly in the copy that he wrote. So this is why I tell people it's okay to have a long sales page. Just make sure that it includes very specific factual details, how the product's made, where it's made, the materials, or if it's a service you offer, break down all of those sort of details. And that's what I think he was a master at. So now on to management. The only management book I'm going to share is The 1 Minute Manager Meets the Monkey. And so this book, I was talking with a guy one time, I don't know, maybe almost a decade ago now. And I was telling him I was having all these people and management issues. And then he was like, yeah, he's like, read this book, The 1 Minute Manager Meets the Monkey. The whole idea here is that the reason it's called the monkey is that when an employee comes to you and they're like, oh, I have this issue. And then you're like, don't worry, I'll take care of it. They've taken this little monkey off their back and they've put it on your back now. Now it's your problem. And then they keep doing this. Other people keep doing this. Their life is easy. They're just waiting on you to kind of do their work for them. You, on the other hand, have this back full of all these monkeys that you're trying to deal with, feel so much pressure. And there's a saying that I believe it was in that book, or maybe somebody else said it, that was like, a lot of times your employees are running out of things to do while you're running out of time. It's because you're doing all the work that they should be doing, not just because they work for you, but also that's how they develop and that's how they get stronger and get better. So this book drives home the point of leaving them with the next step. So if an employee comes to you with an issue, talk through them, help them how you can. They leave with the next step to go research things, to find something out, to create a proposal, to do something and ask for feedback. That's the whole idea here, so that you don't have that pressure on you. It's back on them to do the job that you hired them to do. And they also learn and grow in the process the same way that you learned and grew whenever you were building your business. Now on to how to actually keep the money that you make, how to produce profits. Big one, double your profits in 6 months or less. I've given out copies of this to dozens of people. And so this book basically walks down exactly. I love the cost side of this. The revenue side of this to me is kind of okay. But he basically breaks it down into like how to make more money, but also how to cut costs. The how to cut costs, extremely important. Big lesson here, negotiating with your vendors. If you were to look at your financials and be like, where do we spend the most money? Then try to negotiate those down. Now, you're probably not going to be able to negotiate with Facebook if that's like a big place you spend money, kind of like us. But you can negotiate with your vendors. So your main suppliers. Negotiate every single month or at least once a quarter to bring those costs down. And so that's what this book really drives home, is how to cut costs. He says 78 ways to cut costs, increase sales, and dramatically improve your bottom line. I thought when I first saw this book, this was by some like internet marketer or something. This guy had like a Harvard MBA and worked for Fortune 500 companies. But great book. You can apply this almost immediately to your business. If you bought this one book and applied it religiously over the next 30 days, you probably would double your profits way faster than what he talks about. Next one, Simple Numbers, Straight Talk, Big Profits by Greg Crabtree. So he gives some very clear advice on how to manage your business from a financial standpoint as the owner. And so a couple big things here. Number one that I took from this and use it all the time in my businesses is a daily cash report. This allows you to see how money is flowing in and out of your business. It's an email that I get sent to me every single day. And the way I'm very picky about how this email comes out, and I think he may have talked about this in here, is I want it in the body of the email. If somebody's doing the cash report in a spreadsheet because they have to add different things up, I want them to screenshot that and put it in the body of the email. So I don't have to go click on any links. I don't have to look at any spreadsheets. It's literally right there in the bottom of the email. And I can look at it in, 5 seconds or less. And so I get this sent to me almost every single day. And I also get a daily sales report sent to me every single day, at least every weekday. And then he also talks about reviewing your financials monthly, which is another great important point. But that daily cash report is absolutely essential. Next one is Memos from the Chairman. So this is the second to last book that I'm going to talk about, Memos from the Chairman. So he ran Bear Stearns when it was actually a good company before it sort of crashed, grew the business incredibly well. Big things he talks about, you'll see these little paper clips on here because it's kind of a funny book, kind of tongue in cheek, but he would talk about like, basically reusing paper clips. He's at this big investment bank. They're making all kinds of money. And he's like, guys, you got to monitor the details. He's like, those things start slipping. So he was literally telling people, half jokingly, half not, to reuse paper clips to save money. So this is great, kind of same principles that Amazon applied. I believe Jeff Bezos has talked positively about that book himself, about really minding the details of your business from an ethical standpoint and also cost control standpoint. If you apply this book as a general philosophy, it can't help but to make you more money. The last book is called Happy Money by Elizabeth Dunn. Now, there's 2 Happy Money books. I believe the other one is by a guy named Ken Honda. I actually ordered that book because I have another copy of this somewhere else. But I ordered that book, but I meant to order the Happy Money by Elizabeth Dunn, but I got the other one, so I didn't bring it here with me. But it's called Happy Money by Elizabeth Dunn. This book is the last one I wanted to talk about because when you talk about making a lot of money, you got to keep it. So we talked about the profit side, but the other way to blow it is just on all the personal stuff that isn't actually going to make you happy. So a few points that this book drives home is to spend money on experiences. This is probably, for me, the biggest point. You're going to get a much bigger happiness boost. Say if you have 50 grand you want to spend, you could go out there and pay 50 grand for a new car. You can add some upgrade to your house or whatever. But instead, if you were to take that money and spend it on experiences with friends and family, which a lot of times are not going to cost that much, maybe you could have 5 really cool experiences for that amount of money. The happiness boost you're going to get is going to be way bigger than just buying more stuff. I'm okay with buying stuff. I like to buy stuff like anybody else, but this book really helps you remember how to actually use money to increase happiness, which is going to mean that you keep more money, or at least you get more out of it. So to me, that's the last kind of piece of all this, because it's not really just about nice and being happier. And to me, this is more of a tactical book than you can imagine, because the best way to kill a business is to chase short-term profits. I know I've been guilty of this. But if you are able to reinvest your money into the business or in other businesses in a smart and intelligent way, because you've taken care of your needs by knowing that you're not really going to be happier buying more personal stuff, but you will be by investing in experiences, doing nice things for other people, then you're going to end up building a much better business and actually make more money long term. Example of this is Amazon. Amazon has said from the very beginning, they're in there to invest for the long term. And here Jeff Bezos is worth hundreds of billions of dollars because they took a long-term view and they weren't trying to milk everything they could out of the business in the short term to fund a lifestyle that wasn't going to make them happier anyways. So in Jeff Bezos' 1997 letter, he says, "We will continue to make investment decisions in light of long-term market leadership considerations rather than short-term profitability considerations or short-term Wall Street reactions." So that's what's possible when you invest for the long term. And that's why I recommend using and applying everything in that Happy Money book so that you have the freedom and you don't feel the desire to spend every dollar that you make and try to milk it for everything that you can. You're going to be a lot happier and wealthier long term. So the main lesson here is to read these 15 books and apply what you learn, and your financial life will change forever. Charlie Munger said, "It's been my experience in life. If you just keep thinking and reading, you don't have to work." And this is kind of my goal. I love doing things for other people. I love learning and sharing, but I don't want to have to do a bunch of stuff I don't like to do every single day just to kind of build businesses that may make me money that I'm not spending in the right way anyways, or aren't making any money at all. So all these books will help you make more money, keep more of it, and use it in ways that are wise and fruitful for yourself and the people that you love. So thanks for being here to grow and learn, and I'll see you soon.